This is part one in a two-part series on the new Pro features of the KCSG Tools for Kartra column power tool. And just to note here, the agency version does include all of the Pro functionality. The agency interface currently is the same for this tool as the Pro version, although that may change in the future to accommodate additional functionality. So in this part one, I'm going to cover the full width feature, which is a Pro and agency level feature. I'm also going to go over the new section ID identifier, which gives the HTML ID tag for Kartra sections, which is handy for creating custom CSS that's specific to a section. And then in the next video, in part two, I'll cover the column reversing feature and the small display flex column feature and what exactly that is and what it entails. That'll be in part two. So in part one, first up is the full width feature. So in my demonstration page, I have a 100% width column here. But as is typical for standard column Kartra columns, there are margins for this section that keep this 100% width column, or supposedly 100% width column, from actually going edge to edge on the page canvas. So the width of these margins will shrink and expand depending on the exact width of the window. Basically, the size of the column will jump based on the device size. So it'll be really narrow for mobile devices, wider for tablets, and larger yet for desktops. But as I change the window width, you'll see that margin, there's a size jump. So you'll see that margin changes. What I want to do, and there are other sections in Kartra that go edge to edge on the page canvas and have no margins. And there are even some for videos, but you have to either find a pre-made campaign that's got a full width video component in it, or you have to take some other full width component. There are some components in the standard Kartra templates that go full width, but then you have to strip out all the stuff that's in there and then add in the elements that you want to have in there if the Kartra templates don't exactly match what you already had in mind. So now there's a much easier way. Note that I'm in the column mode of the page builder. I'm going to click on the cog icon to open the column tool. And now there is a checkbox. If you come down and you look at the column power tool for this full width component, you'll see the full box is already checked because it's already natively a full width. So we can make this this column, which is not natively full width, we can, with a single click, we can now turn that into a full width column. Now notice, I don't know how well you can see the line, but the pink line representing this column does go to the edge. However, the framework that Kartra uses for its column layout by default creates a 15 pixel intra-column margin, so 15 pixels on the left and on the right sides of this component. So the solution for that is I'm going to add a negative 15 pixel margin on the left and right sides of this in this section for this video component. Now it's possible when you're building a page, you might want to have multiple video components. You might want to have one that runs full width, and then you might want to have some video components, some smaller videos embedded, like maybe multiple columns across or something, where you don't want to remove that 15 pixel margin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use another new feature of the column power tool to make that change to remove this 15 pixel margin. I'm going to make it specific to this section. And while the full width column is a feature of Pro and Agency, the column power tool now in both the upgraded version and the standard free version now displays the section ID that shows up in the HTML that you would need to make CSS specific to a section. That section ID is now displayed here when you open up the column power tool. So what I'm going to do in order to make a rule that is specific to this section, I'm going to double click on the section ID. While holding down the mouse, I'm going to extend the selection to include the pound sign, which is the CSS selector symbol that says that it's referring to an HTML ID. You don't need to worry about the technical details too much, just copy it. Control-C on Windows or Command-C on a Mac. I'm going to come into my page styles. I'm going to paste the section ID. Let me just replace this. So there's the section ID, which says this rule is only going to apply to this section. Here is the rule that I need. It's going to say a left margin of minus 15 pixels, a right margin of minus 15 pixels, and I want to apply that to the video component. So I'm going to copy that, append that to my section selector, and now as I apply this rule is going to remove the 15 pixel left and right margins on this element. Now it's important to note that because of the way the page builder works, the selector, it's a little bit different in the page builder than in preview. Long story short, that change will only appear in the preview and live versions. You won't see it here. So just to confirm that, let's open the preview for this page. And so now, as you can see, with that rule applied, the video is indeed going from the left edge all the way up to where my scroll bar is. So we have no margins around the video. As I resize the window, that video component is going full edge to edge.